What really gets farmers to change how they farm? Over the past 18 months, I've travelled across the world on a Nuffield scholarship to find out. I focused on soil management, but the lessons apply to any practice. So if you're a farmer thinking about trying something new, or an advisor or policymaker wanting to know how best to support change, then this video is for you. So I'm Tom. I grew up here surrounded by farming on the edge of the North York Moors. After a few years in London, I started Soil Benchmark with my co-founder Ben, and we build software to help farmers and agronomists improve soil, manure and nutrient management planning. We launched at the end of 2023 and we're incredibly proud that more than 11.5% of England's farmland has signed up. But what became clear really quickly is that software on its own doesn't make change happen. It can make it easier or quicker, but it's not the thing that actually gets farmers to change their practices. That's why I wanted to do a Nuffield scholarship, to explore what really does. So over the past 18 months, I've travelled across Europe, South America and Australia, driven more than 6,500 miles meeting farmers, agronomists, researchers, policymakers, from drought-hit farms in Western Australia, cotton growers in New South Wales, to farmer groups in Denmark and Argentina, as well as some of the UK's most innovative farmer clusters. And everywhere I went, I asked the same question: what actually gets farmers to do things differently? The report that I've written summarising my findings breaks it down into three essentials: motivation, advice and funding, plus good monitoring, which is crucial to each of those three. So firstly, motivation. A farmer has to want to make a change, and without this, all the other steps are futile. I saw 6 key triggers again and again on my travels that had motivated farmers to change. So firstly, external crises. In Australia, for instance, it was so often droughts that had forced farmers to rethink their system and to try something new. Second is personal crises. I think messy successions or health scare. For many that I'd met, these had made the old ways of doing things suddenly just feel unsustainable. Third is charismatic educators. So that's individuals like a Gabe Brown and Nicole Masters who inspire the curiosity and the confidence to go and try something new. Fourth is community influence. So in Australia, seeing their cotton growers, their feedlot producers, showed the power of a really close-knit industry, often coming together in the face of outside criticism, in driving a culture where new ideas are the norm. Fifth is benchmarking groups. So the best ones that I saw across my travels, they were run by consultants and they had a brilliant mix of accountability as well as competitiveness that nudged farmers to keep on improving. The final one is the fantastic Grazing for Profit course run by Terry McCosker, which itself has impacted more than 10% of Australian farmland. It gives farmers the time and a framework to step back and to look at their whole business differently. So the first two are hard to scale up, but my report contains recommendations for how to encourage the other 4. So the second essential requirement then was advice. Once farmers are motivated, they really need trusted, practical guidance. And well-run, well-funded farmer groups were the closest thing that I found to a silver bullet for this. So from the Catalyst farming group in Norfolk, where 4 exceptional farms share their own data analyst, to AMPS in northern New South Wales, where a group of farmers have set up their own $100 million Aussie dollar input supply business to fund their local research group, to the brilliant CREA network of groups across Argentina. My report covers the best models that I saw in Australia, Argentina, Denmark, as well as here in the UK. But well-run groups aren't the whole answer. Agronomists and advisors play a huge role too, and I look into schemes which successfully get advisors onto farms. I also explore how to make agricultural research actually useful. Too often it's seen as irrelevant or just too abstract on farm. I think the key is making sure the research is farmer-led, and the UK is making some exciting changes along these lines currently. So third and final ingredient for farmers to change is funding. Change, especially to something as fundamental as your soil management, carries a lot of upfront risk for farmers, and funding helps to bridge that gap. So in each of the countries that I visited, I explored both the public and the private support schemes available. I actually came away thinking that England's sustainable farming incentive is actually properly world-leading, and it just needs some refinement rather than anything more drastic. In my report, I set out some specific recommendations for how it should change. So that's the 3 crucial steps I saw again and again on my travels: motivation, advice, funding. And across each of these 3, monitoring and sampling are really crucial. Too often soil sampling, for instance, can be seen as just a tick box exercise for compliance. But on my travels, I saw the real value of monitoring and robust data collection as being slightly different. It was really as a supporter for each of those 3 steps. So good data, for instance, supports motivation because it allows farmers to see their own progress and also enables those benchmarking groups to work. It's also critical to good advice because without proper monitoring, it's much harder for farmers and their advisors to judge what actually is and isn't working on their farm. And finally, good data underpins funding. That's not just credits, but the future of schemes like SFI, because without robust data, the Treasury is unlikely to keep on footing the bill. So while I began my Nuffield focused on soil management, I think what I found applies much more widely. I hope there are lessons here for anyone wanting to influence change on farm, not just farmers, but agronomists, policymakers, NGOs, maybe even agricultural societies. But this video is just a snapshot. Please do have a look at my full report, which has all the detail, the stories, the people I met, and the recommendations I set out. And finally, a big thank you to Nuffield for this fantastic opportunity, and to the Yorkshire Agricultural Society for very generously sponsoring my scholarship. Thank you.